Hello and welcome to the Empathy Podcast. This episode is going to be a little bit different. We are going to be sitting down with two of my absolute best friends and we're going to be talking about relationships and how to have a healthy, successful relationship. It's something that often doesn't get talked about, but it's also one of the things that could lead to the most incredible happiness of anyone's life. And also, there's so many podcasts out there and these shows I've been seeing everywhere about people going through challenges in the dating. Divorce rates are higher than they've ever been. And we're going to sit down and talk to some people that have a very successful relationship and how they were able to do it. So sit tight and buckle up. This one's going to be a good one. All right. Hello and welcome to the Empathy Podcast. We are here today with two incredibly special guests to me. I've had the pleasure to know them for several years now, and our relationship keeps getting deeper and deeper as we continue to know each other. And this is actually the third time that Allison has been on the podcast. The first time, actually, she had brought on and talked about her beautiful vegan children, and we talked about, the challenges of raising children in today's society. And then the last time we were actually in Belize together, and we talked about how to help vegans become wealthy, right? And healthy, so to speak. And because that's another challenge that we saw in this world is like, oh my gosh, we want to make this impact, but like we just don't have enough resources. So how do we get more resources, right? But today we have an incredibly different topic that I think is something that a lot of people are facing with, and it is a crisis as well in today's society that people are facing. And what we're talking about is actually your guys' marriage. So it's going to be a little bit more intimate. And a little bit maybe more raw for sure than some of the last ones that we've had. And also we have Jared, your husband, that's joining us as well. So he's going to get a chance to share, as well his perspective. But what's happening, I notice, is that the divorce rates are higher than they've ever been. Relationships are way shorter than they've ever been. I myself, have gone through some pretty challenging times. And I know that many people that I know, and even my family, right? And just you see it everywhere, even my parents were divorced when I was 2, and just how is that impacting, families today and really, the society, right? Society, exactly. So what I like to do first is ask you, how did you first meet?
That's a good question.
Do you want to answer that one?
Yeah. Well, I was in my 20s and I found I don't know, I think I heard about you or I saw a picture of you, and like most guys that see a picture of Allison, they're like fall head over heels, like I love her. So I was one of those, and then we kind of overlapped. I was and yeah, I was just like in pursuit. Like I was just like I don't know what it is. I'm drawn to this person. I don't really know her yet, and that's why I wanted to just like learn more about her. So I was in another relationship at the beginning, and we would talk sometimes. I felt bad.
When we first met, you weren't in a relationship, though.
That's true. Yeah.
But when you had like an attraction for her, you were already in another relationship. Is that what you're saying?
No. He actually, I left. I was very hard. I was like, okay, when Jared and I met, I think I was 21 or 22. I was like in one toxic relationship after another. I had low self-esteem. So I know Jared is so kind to say there was like all these amazing suitors falling head over heels. But really it was like, I tended to go for the wrong guys because I didn't have self-worth. And so when I saw Jared, I was like, he's good. Like he's a good guy. And I kind of I thought if he knows like my past and what I've been through, he's going to run, and I would just protect myself and push him away. And I actually ended up moving to London and having another relationship. Jared found another Allison and actually had another relationship. But then we, we really just, through the years, like there was a really strong connection. It was like we were meant to be, and everything kept pulling us together. And so finally, when we both ended both of our relationships, it was like, she
brought me to Bikram yoga and tested me, and I passed.
That was our first date. Yeah.
First date.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's been great. Yeah.
And that's really hard too, Bikram yoga. So
yeah.
That must have been a really
it was like yeah, it was like to see his like strength, I was like, I have to see if he can handle this 90-minute in the torture chamber, he can handle me.
Wow.
Maybe that was subconsciously what I was thinking. I didn't think of that then, but
that's really, really cool. So Now, how long have you guys been married for?
We married 2014, so
7 years.
Yeah, 7 years.
7 years, right? So there's definitely been a maturity, right? There's definitely been some ups and downs for sure, some good times and some challenging times.
Yeah.
So let's talk about maybe some of the challenging times. Like, what are some challenges that you guys have faced within the marriage?
Yeah, well, there was a time when...
I think it's important to say that we had Rhea, we had our first daughter before we got married. So, we were always like committed 100%. Like we both knew that, that we were the ones for one another, but
we had our daughter before we were really ready. And actually we were both living in 2 separate apartments at the time, I think, right? I still had my apartment. And that kind of did not that we like rushed to get married. We got married, I think, maybe almost 2 years after, but, it was, that was we had some rough times in, when after I had kids, I was, everything was smooth before, but, there was still, I think we had communication issues and we weren't as maybe deep with like sharing everything and understanding each other. But at the time that, after I had a lot of mental health issues, like after having kids, I had, even before I had depression. And then I was diagnosed as bipolar. I had a lot of ups and downs mentally and mood swings. And, Jared was the brunt of that because, you tend to take everything out on the person closest to you. And I actually was someone who I would self-sabotage myself over hurting anyone. But because, Jared kind of got dragged into a lot of my issues and troubles. And Jared took, I think, you were working a lot. And so he was working in movies, really long days. And I think that almost became, in a way, an escapism from having to deal with a lot of the drama at home. And, and so we had a big divide at one point where, I think you were in China and, it was a really trying time. We just moved. I had 2 little kids. My mental health was at its all-time worst. We were just the beginning of winter. And he only went for 10 days. But in that 10 days, I nearly had a breakdown. And I was seeking attention even from other men just because I was not even I was just craving anything to help me feel good. And so that was probably the most challenging time in our relationship.
And it was also a culmination of me not really being open emotionally. Up until that point, I would be possessive of her and jealous of you, of other men and stuff like that. And, never so scared to face that idea of am I everything to you? You know what I mean? And I don't think I was because I was so closed off, I wasn't I barely used to cry before, I wouldn't go to root and you would ask me, it'd be what are you feeling? What are you actually feeling? Because I would kind of just be numb to things.
It was one of the things that first attracted me to Jared was that he was so stoic and calm about everything. But then is when I was really in crisis and I was seeing no emotion, I was do you feel anything? It was I was always trying to bring that out in him, what do you feel? Because it was, that.
And even though our diet was good, right?
It wasn't great. When we were living with your mother, that was trying times too. We were living at his mother's house and his mother was cooking for us and bless her, she's amazing. But it was not healthy food. It was a lot of cake and we were both suffering with a lot of health issues. So, when we're not feeling our best physically, we're not going to be sexy. We're not going to be confident in all of the things that, help build a relationship. So I think we were kind of downward spiraling around those times too. And our diet was just, we didn't really we didn't hold it in any really particular, we didn't think it was important. We were eating more, whatever we got.
Just what felt good, what tasted good. So it led to a point where we're just what could, obviously her mental health is reflecting this routine, this that we're not taking care of ourselves.
And because I had taken care of myself really well before meeting Jared, so I had the memory of being at my peak when I was doing Bikram every day. And then I kind of went, when you merge with someone, you tend to adopt some of their habits for good or bad. And I kind of went and adopted a lot of his like bad eating habits.
Yeah.
And so I went more to
overeating, like just like hot wings and you know, burgers, and Pop-Tarts and
then we'll get to that after because it changed a lot. But, yeah.
Where do you think like some of these things maybe were learned behaviors, like going into the relationship, you know what I mean? Like, where do you think some of these stem from? Like, you know, like, do you think it's maybe some upbringing? Like, I saw my mom do it and dad do it kind of thing. You think it's some societal, like, these are cultural norms and you feel like you have to be in, like, maybe this kind of box, you know, to make this work? Like, where do you think some of these challenges stem from, like, in your opinion?
Well, her parents are still married. Mine got divorced and I was like 16, 17. So, yeah, it was like, it affected me in a way where I'm thinking like, okay, divorce is common, you know, like it's a normal thing to fall out of love with your
So you're probably thinking like this could happen. So maybe your mindset is like, well, yeah, people get divorced all the time. So like I committed to you forever. Like I don't want to prevent divorce happening because like you have that mindset of like, it could happen. It happened to me. I've seen it happen. Yeah. I know other people it happened. So it's almost like it is a little bit of a fear mindset, right? Of like a fear of losing, a fear of loss. Yeah. You know, that projected on.
It's also just not
onto in a way, right? Yeah.
And a willingness not to do the work. Like I don't think my parents worked through it. Like they didn't, like maybe they tried or whatever, but there were so many things that they could have done differently.
Like numb with alcohol, like my parents would like numb with alcohol.
With weed.
With food, numb it. Like instead of deal with this problem, like they're having a relationship problem, like numb it with something else.
Yes. Superficial kind of symptom response rather than go to the roots cause. So it was hard. Do you want to speak to that?
Well, yeah, it definitely affected, you know, it's like whatever our upbringing is, and like both my parents, they would fight a lot, you know, and they had a lot of aggression towards each other. And I also normalized that. Like that was familiar to me. And that's why I would go into toxic relationships before I met Jared, because that was not that they're toxic together, but they're just, you know, a lot of things they're not getting to the root of, and they just they live, and they do the best they can with what they know. But, I was under the impression that it was normal in relationships to have like fights and things like that. So Jared didn't really come from that. That was different. I think from your parents didn't like outwardly really fight that much. They kind of just divorced. But in my mind, it was like people stay together, but they just fight all the time. That's normal.
Yeah, definitely. So these are definitely most likely challenges that people go through that lead to it ending. Right? Some of these things, right? Not all of them, and there's more severe and, you know, stuff like that, whether it's infidelity or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So with that being said, like you obviously are together and incredibly thriving. Like you guys are like almost like the prototype. Like people look up to you. You know, they want to have what you have. They want to have, you know, the family values. They want to be able to live, like we're literally on the beach right now, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like they want to be able to live that and see that and be able to have the true happiness and have it be coming from, you know, a genuine place. And also like something that can be sustainable. Right? So can you speak to like what is working and like how is it working? Like what are some of the things that you did to make it work?
I think it's like how we could have, when we hit that hard time, we could have done the superficial response and just like, you know, put Allison on medications and, you know, therapy. But because we went to the root cause, you know, and her mental state was deteriorating, you know, like she's getting put on higher doses of an SSRI, you know, antidepressants, Ritalin, just to like function, right? So.
And you tried the therapy too. You said you had tried that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He kind of brought me in to think like, I thought like, okay, this could be beneficial, but it turned out like he just wanted to get me on some kind of medication too, it seemed like.
Well, yeah.
And just like, it was very Band-Aid. It was very like, you know, and that's why I think couples stay in troubled relationships, because it's like comfortable, you know, they don't really break through the root. And that's what happened. Like when I came back from China, I was like I couldn't settle for just like a symptom relief, you know, we needed to get to the bottom of it, you know, and fast, or else we would have fallen apart.
Yeah.
So luckily we had like gut health and, these grounding.
Well, that came after
rituals.
but that came later. Yeah.
Yeah, it led us to that.
Yeah, it led us to that. But like, in sorry, what was the question?
Just like what we could do, as just like
how are you guys thriving now, essentially?
Yeah.
Like what did you do to get to this point where
Okay.
you're at a thriving state in your marriage and in your life?
Yeah. So we really were at the point where we were, totally like it could have been the make or break, right? And it was super divine. Like a gut health protocol came into our life, which I had no idea was going to be like the solution to everything. Like I just thought like, oh, it'll be good to get some nutrition and like, cause we're vegan and, actually going vegan was the catalyst of coming together. Mm-hmm. So I sort of did make it in a way, like we made it fun. We did it together. We watched What the Health and we went vegan. Not all our problems were solved from that. There was a lot of...
We were still vegan at the time of that, like...
At the really low point.
China,
we were vegan then. So I'm just going to say that it helped a lot, that it brought us together. It did bring us closer, but we were still on the, like, really not heading for, it wasn't going in the right direction there. And,
you could say we were like junk food vegans. We weren't eating a lot of whole food stuff. We were still like...
I was trying. Yeah.
You were better. But I think I was bringing...
You were a bad influence with that,
yeah.
So he was more junk foodie, and I was just trying so hard to raise our kids really healthy and everything. And then this easy solution came into our life where nutrition was covered, where our gut health was repaired. And I never thought even that, like I knew about the gut brain connection, but I didn't know all my problems were gut related. Like I was like, no, for sure. Like I have chemical imbalances and PTSD. That's why I'm the way I am. Like we make justifications. Everything changed when I did a gut repair. So then Jared started to do it too. And that is the pivot in our relationship right there, but it didn't end there. So what happened was I, started to heal deeply, started to feel better, started to feel sexier, prettier, all the confidence things that help you to also be more like close with your partner. And then Jared started to like feel better, look better, be more like, physical, active. And like, we started to,
when you had like a dad bod and now you have a 6-pack.
Yeah. He was like, he was like dad bod before he was a dad. So
just regular guy bod.
Yeah. But I loved him for all of it, even with or without that, but I didn't know that he could like look that much better and everything. And so we both started to just like, I think heal ourselves. Like I think the secret to healthy relationship is taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
Like that we can control. A lot of people look to blame the other and they're like, if our relationship would be good if he just did this or if she just did this. And it's like, we don't realize that if we heal ourselves, not only do we like get to like think better and clearer and be able to solution find and everything, but like, that's contagious and the other person wants to like start healing themselves. So I really think that like healing, being like in a relationship in an actively, like we're both healing ourselves. And we're not dependent on each other for healing. We're like actively healing ourselves. We're on our own healing journeys. Mm-hmm. That has really like brought us so much closer together.
Like I knew you wanted to be like feel better, but the drugs and the pharmaceuticals was like an artificial way to get there. And it was like, I was pushing for that because I thought like, okay, this will fix you. You know what I mean? But it was totally misguided, totally the wrong approach. And, if you're in the hands of doctors and your parents and, friends, like they would probably just encourage that line of thinking. So it was really hard to like rise out of that.
We didn't
like
know
go
any
through
other way.
The challenges of everyone being like, what are you guys doing? Like you're becoming like health nuts now. Like,
we were up against the world when we did this. Like no one was on, supportive of that. But, it's important in a couple to take on the world, cause like you can't we're living with each other. We don't need to please anyone else. And that's like, that really, we stuck by it and ever since then, not only has that helped our marriage physically from a physical standpoint, but also it came with, a business that actually transformed our marriage as well, because financial stress and the stress of Jared having to work so much was
like driving a wedge between us.
And that is what I see as society, because our society does not, it doesn't do well for relationships when, when I know in the US, there's only like a few weeks that you have when you have kids that you can have your like maternity time or your paternity time. And then it's like, you have to, like, that is stressful in life.
And there's no vacation time like required in the US. No. Like, the literally zero required.
It's crazy.
You just work 52 weeks a year.
And people think, like, why is there divorce? I mean, like, just having that 9-to-5 job where someone has to be in traffic also for an hour each way. So like, it's even more than the 9-to-5. And they're coming home stressed and tired and all of these things. And we don't get to connect. If Jared had his own separate life, like, that's where we were going, where Jared was having his own work life. I was having my own, like, home life that I don't know, and like, I was trying to also create my own business. I wanted to do a home business, but I didn't have support around me. I couldn't do it alone. No one could do it alone with 2 kids. And I don't know. I see people do it. I'm like, it's crazy. Like, that is just a recipe for burnout and total disaster. Even if you get something going, it is not sustainable to do it alone without support. So when we found,
and I didn't lean fully in at the beginning anyways. Like, I was still doing my other job, and I would watch Allison go on Zoom calls and talk to people. And I was just like supportive, but I didn't know what it was. I thought it was just like a passing kind of trend thing, like maybe it would come and go. But because it's so profound, because it's such an important mission that it's like making people better versions of themselves, then, And
I think when you had your own transformation, then you got it. Cause like, then you understood like, oh, this is like,
it's legit.
Because he was not on board with everything I was doing. When I bought this stuff, he wanted to return it right away. He was not supportive.
I think I saw a documentary on Herbalife. I was like, like she's in the cult now. And
just, like, he didn't read the ingredients. He didn't know what I was doing. And so he just saw a credit card charge and was like, no. And, basically, wasn't so supportive at the beginning. But I think it's really important for couples who are doing this to know that even if your spouse isn't supportive at the beginning, I saw the vision. I believed in it 100%.
Yeah.
And I just, held on to that.
And it's a non-restrictive thing. It wasn't like, we had to lean into it. You know what I mean? It was just a golden opportunity. So anyone who's like, thinks like you have to commit 100% fully into this thing, it's not true.
It took us like a year and a half to, ease in and for Jared to start to actually see the vision of the business. But that is a huge reason why we're as good as we are today, is because we are building something. Like, we get to, like, this is our child, another child that we get to raise and help thousands and thousands of people. And just that reward of, like, knowing we're making a difference and doing it together and having fun with it has changed my vision of what work is. Like, we have a vision when we're growing up of, like, what family life looks like, what work looks like. Like, now we, like, get to create the ideal version of all of this that we want. We actually get to create a new version that's never even been, like, done before. We're just, like, creating it. And that is, I think, what's brought us together is just that creativity,
it's like unlimited opportunity.
Yeah, we get to wake up.
Everything was limited, like you're saying. Like, it's like you have to go in the box if you want to make it work, right? But that's an illusion, We need maximum potential. You need to fill your own cup as much as you can and find ways to do that so that you can be the best version. And then you're going to attract your partner. You're going to be able to be supportive and, be the person they need.
Or transform your partner to be
And I think that's what I was going to say is I think another really key to your success that I see from the outside as like someone looking in is that you both are able to hold up a mirror for each other. And I think that all relationships that happens, I think we hold up mirrors for each other. But what you both do is you look at that mirror and you reflect and you improve. And you're able to hold them up for each other, but you're not closed-minded in a place where you don't try to grow. You're open-minded in a place where you do try to grow. And because you're able to both do that, I think that is one of the keys
that is a huge
to
key.
Success.
That is a huge key. It's the shadow work. It's like we're able to, and I think I pushed Jared to be more like, able to take criticism and to not make it a defensive thing, but to make it like, that's a gift. Like, thank you for pointing that out. Cause, you know, it's all how we look at it. It's so common in couples that they fight because, you know, one is getting criticized. And it's like, instead of looking at, like, we start to look at it like when we not criticize each other, but when we, you know, suggest things, it's like about how we can, because we see each other, we get to have the benefit of having a different eye, see each other and see where we can improve. And I am really grateful whenever, you know, Jared gives me suggestion on, you know, sometimes in the moment you're not grateful because you're just like, it's like, it takes you back, but we've developed like a really good communication for how we can see each other's like highest self and how we can help each other, support each other to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing that we didn't touch on at all that is probably the biggest like impact that you are making beyond everyone in the business that you have, like within your own family, like the biggest impact is your kids. How is this impacting them?
Oh my God. So much. Okay. Like so much because when we were, when Jared was working full time and they had to be in school, like, you know, even in after school programs. And, I was like stressed and, you know, couldn't be like so present. That was really having an effect. Like, I don't know where they would be today. You know, I suffered with a lot of learning disabilities and I think they were a result of not sleeping enough, having stress, you know, parents that are stressed out, having, you know, not good food. And so like when I am able to, give them, you know, we are able.
It's just a matter of like, you're setting the standard, you know what I mean? So it's like the food that you bring in the house, your routines, the way you eat, like your kids are going to challenge that. But as long as you set the standard, and going plant-based was huge, you know, like, especially because they knew what it was like to eat animal products. So
our older one did, yeah.
Yeah, we had to kind of unprogram their thinking and wean them off of those things. But
and it wasn't easy. They had like grandparents still feeding them stuff, right? It was like,
yeah,
they were exposed to it all. So but yeah. And
then, but you need like some kind of support. And I think with gut health, it is that support because it's like you're training your body to not crave sugar and junk and animal products and those feelings of like comfort that you used to get from like greasy, salty, cooked food. You know what I mean? It's like, it's there. It's obviously it tastes good, but like the amount of suffering as a result of that few seconds of pleasure, you know, you have to learn that.
And they're learning to like, you know, they're exposed to our community. They see so many other, like they get to see other kids who are raised like this, and that's what they know. You know, now this is their life, and they get to have us like all the time, and they get to watch us create our business, which they're learning so much from. And so I just think that this has been a huge blessing for us as parents because they get to have better behavior and like be better, but like for them to have this experience of being on the forefront of like a revolution and, you know, the new way, which when they grow up are going to say like, yeah, my parents were doing that since I just think that's really cool.
So what kind of future do you think they might have had if you stuck to like how things were before and you didn't make these changes? And what kind of vision do you have for them now?
Oh, that's such a great question. I know exactly where they would be. They would probably, you know, I think they would be in the public school system. They would be
even as adults, like the future.
Oh yeah,
yeah. What would happen if they stuck down that same path?
The same way I did. You know, I was on medications. I was in therapy. I was dealing with a lot of self-esteem issues from, you know, years of school telling me I'm not smart enough, and
we wouldn't have been well equipped to deal with like
not rich.
Yeah, when they go through traumas or, you know, their first sexual experiences, their first bullying, like all these things that happen. Like I think our parents weren't really well equipped to deal with it, confront it head on, and really go to the source because it's too delicate.
I think I would have been good at I would be good at that, but probably if I was mentally unstable, you know, I may not have been as good. But I always
might not even be aware it's even happening at some point. You know, just like could be like medication overtake your awareness.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I would be recreating the same patterns, right? Yeah. Because I already saw a pattern in my maternal lineage that was a lot of the like all the generations in my family of the women have been very depressed, and so I think I would have perpetuated the pattern. And yeah, a lot of things I wouldn't have been able to handle. I would have probably gotten mad at them a lot and yelled and all kinds of other things that I would not be proud of at all. And now, yeah, I think how they are now is they're super,
so what vision for them?
Yeah,
like,
vision.
What do you see? Like, they're adults. Like, what do you think?
Okay. I see them, first of all, they're going to be raised in an empire of superfoods. So they are going to, have this huge business if they choose to take over it or participate in it. I think they're going to find their place in it. I know, they're both very different. Rhea's really into like gaming, coding, and so she may be more kind of like, maybe she's going to be a programmer, like into maybe making website. I don't know, but something actually I could see her doing that's going to, help the world. So she's going to be doing some like her way of infiltrating in a way that's going to be positive to, she's brilliant and she's also an amazing writer. And so I know that she is going to, be able to pursue that and all her passions. And then Junie is like so creative and loves to dance. And, she's going to get to pursue, maybe she tells us all the time she wants to be a hairdresser. Like, of course you could do that. You're going to be our hairdresser. Amazing. Like, she gets to like, she's very much more,
in gymnastics,
ballet.
Physical.
She loves.
As long as we can just coach them at what they're passionate about. Like, I just want them to be creative and free to just do whatever they want and not feel like, because I'm not good at math, like I need to,
I can't go do this because I'm not,
Exactly. It's all
my dreams are over because I don't know math.
Yeah. Well, my dreams was to be a psychologist, but because I couldn't do the sciences and the math, I couldn't pursue that. So I totally that would have happened. We're so blocked in our society. So I think that now they're going to see out of the box how people make it, and now like they're going to create like who knows, because they're like getting to be raised in such an open-minded, out of the box way. And they're going to inspire other kids like themselves. And I know I would love to have them in community so that we can just homeschool all the way through with other parents who are like-minded as well.
All right, awesome. I want to end this on one question for each of you. So the same question, but for both. So basically, if you were to give advice for the women out there, in relationship advice, for people that are struggling, they're having challenges, like they, going from one boyfriend to the next or whatever, and they're really struggling, what advice?
First, take care of yourself. Like, you will never try, and by the way, it's not external. You can get all the Botox, all the, like, whatever. It's not going to heal you're not going to feel beautiful on the inside if you don't heal deeply on the inside. So that is like something that I always, I think that we have the tools now to be able to heal. So I would say get on a gut repair, because now I know that's the gateway into this. And I was trying all kinds of modalities before to heal, but nothing really stuck. I know, get on the green juice, because, that is our confidence and our beauty, and everything stems from our gut, our mental health, and our, and I would say really, the number one thing to attract another partner is definitely just having really good self-care and health.
I think one of the challenges that I notice for women is when they get to that point is then you have the abundant selection. You have a lot of options, right? So then the question is, what advice would you give for selecting?
Oh, that's a great question.
Because that's women hold the key in selecting.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So that's the biggest challenge that I notice people have. Once they get to that point, I would say. You're right. That's the first step. I agree. Because if you're not there, definitely start there. But then.
Yes. Okay, fine. Don't go for just like who you're lust or like have like serious attraction for. Go with
physical, you mean?
Yeah, not just like, it can't be.
Because there has to be some attraction. But you know what I mean? Like,
yes, there has to be some attraction, but attraction also, like, okay, it grows and grows. And the thing is, the most important thing is kindness in another partner. You want to make sure that you're choosing someone who's going to be supportive and protective and really, truly, like, honors you and is a good person. At the end of the day, you can always grow in lust and deeper in physical attraction. You can always, that is something that's ever evolving actually. And actually when people base it on that, that declines. But when you start with the premise of the character traits that you look for in a partner, and and I don't even just say it as like a partnership. It has to fill your, maybe what you're lacking. Like I know for myself, I was very disorganized. I was like really messy and all these things, right? And Jared filled in, like he was all the things that, like he was calm, he was organized.
You think of me, I'm like a rock island and she's the ocean,
Yeah.
Like I'm just like predictable, like solid, and she's just like crashing, like wild. Emotions.
So another, right? I used to be attracted to other crashing wild guys, right? But then it would be like tsunami. It would just be like too wild. So it was
and
like
you're molding me over time, just like the ocean.
Yeah. Oh.
We're eroding you.
And
Until I whittled away.
and you're breaking me every time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think a key thing is also like if your parents did have a not so great relationship, or of other people, like learn from their patterns, like do the opposite of whatever they were doing that got them. Like I knew my dad like wasn't around much, he would be playing golf and everything. So I'm like, I'm not going to play video games. I'm not going to play golf. I'm not going to do anything that takes me further away from my family. It's just a sacrifice. And then you also take from good families, good relationships. You borrow what worked. You get inspired by them. You know what I mean? And if it's like something that takes you out of your comfort zone or whatever, like I knew families growing up, I'm like, wow, I wish I could be like that couple, like they seem really great. So yeah, just, be inspired and always just like challenge yourself. Like you have to push yourself. You can't push your partner to be someone different, only the better version of themselves.
Yeah, for sure. So for you, what would you say? Would there be any specific advice maybe that you'd give to the guys in the situation that are like they're struggling? They're like, I'm going from girl to girl, going from relationship to relationship, like how am I like
I still have a lot of friends like that that are, in their 40s and still going after younger women. And I think it's like you have to channel your best self, like Allison was saying, is like if you really become like an optimal version of yourself, one who's like not dependent on someone else, and you get clear on a mission, really get like behind a solid mission. And if it's just career, fine, but it should be bigger. It should be something that's like, I want to passionately like create and or heal others. So that for me is what it was. Like I thought film was my thing. I thought editing was it. It's part of it, but this is our mission now, is to like transform people's lives, and that's really fulfilling. And just like growing a garden, like I think every man should be mandated to grow a garden for themselves and for their family, because that would teach them about like sustainability, teach them about quality food, things like that. Like that's a mission to get behind, you know what I mean? And if there's too many misguided young men, that's how we have this crisis right now, is like, divorce.
So where would you look for?
In a person, in a woman. Just the qualities I would look for is just someone that is able to hold up the mirror to you, isn't scared to tell you what you need to change about yourself, and one who just like aligns with your passions. Like don't, I always feel like I'm still a suitor for Allison. I'm constantly like, I just want to make her laugh and just like want her to love me. And so like always be chasing, like you're never going to settle. You know what I mean? It never happens. So like always just be head over heels. Find that person.
Yeah. And I think definitely like for sure, like something that like you provide is like incredibly nurturing. You're incredibly caring. You're incredibly kind. And I think those are incredibly important qualities as well. Because
don't go for just the pretty girl, go for the girl with the big heart. Because, at the end of the day, looks fade, but a heart is forever. And that's who's going to be, we take care of each other. And, at the end of the day, you want to look for someone who's going to be by your side.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this was incredible. I think that we had a lot of stuff to share, and I can't wait for people to see this. And thank you guys so much for your time. Thank you everyone for listening. Please share this with anyone that you think could benefit from this, that's struggling out there.